Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Today, I wanted to do a special show on stock charts that are outperforming and a group that look to outperform their peers. The sentiment towards gold stocks is very poor right now, but I've been able to find some power charts and some charts that are about to look like they're going to get a lot stronger. At the end of the show, I'll talk about gold and the US dollar and why I think that that's a catalyst for a lot of these stocks moving forward. But let's get right to the power charts that I'm seeing. And right off the bat, I'm going to share screen here, and I'm going to isolate this this chart for IAU. That's I-80 Gold. They trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange as well as the New York Stock Exchange. Their symbol, as you can see in Toronto, is IAU. Their symbol in New York is IAUX. The first thing that I want to point out is this trend over here that you can see with it. Sorry, I'm just having a little technical difficulty here. Right here is a very important part of the chart. As you can see, this is the 200-day moving average, and this is the 50-day, and red is the 200-day, blue is the 50-day. And what I would point out is that this stock, in a bad market for gold stocks, is just busted through this 200-day moving average. It's now trading 50-some cents, 56 cents above the, 56 cents above the 200-day moving average. And what's fueled that big move is their recent news. I did an interview with McEwen. They're a sponsor of my website, and I've been able to do a lot of interviews with McEwen. And recently they had news out. They've found in Eureka, Nevada, on their Ruby Hill project, quite a tremendous and remarkable situation. They have an old pit there that was being mined in the past by Barrick, and they stopped mining there because they basically ran out of oxide material, and then they had a pit wall fail, and they walked away from the project. And a number of years later, I-80 was able to get this project, and to the west of that pit, they found what's called their Ruby Deeps discovery. It looks like a tremendous gold system with exceptional high grade over thick intersections, something that would be a very high margin operation. And then they also found closer in between the Ruby Deeps and the Archimedes pit, they found their 426 zone, and that basically links the Ruby Deeps to the Archimedes pit. And what's quite interesting about that is that they're hitting a lot of oxide material, which they are moving towards fast tracking to get that into production. And then to the south of the Archimedes pit, they found this CRD deposit, a carbonate replacement deposit, that's just out of this world opportunity of discovery and adding more high margin material to their production profile. What they've hit is a high grade CRD, and it has an overprint of a high grade gold system that they look like they followed the same path of least resistance, if you will, these faults that are big cracks in the earth that allow the fluids to flow to the surface, that have base metals, and in this case, precious metals included in it. I haven't seen that they've done any age dating between these two different events, the gold and the CRD. I imagine they will in the future, but the recent announcement, they hit 60 grams of gold over 10 meters with high-grade silver in there as well, high-grade zinc and lead, and the stock has just been on a tear of late. It's now trading aggressively above its 200-day moving average. The 50-day moving average is turning upwards, and it looks like they're headed towards a golden cross, which is, one of my favorite trends. And, often they go a lot higher when they go through a golden cross. The opposite of a golden cross is a death cross. And you can see that back in July, they had that death cross, and just look at how much it dropped after the death cross. Well, you can kind of expect that or more when it goes through a bull cross. So that would take it a lot higher than it dropped from around 310-ish. It started dropping from about 340, around where it is right now, all the way down to about $2 a share. So that was a pretty significant correction. So if you take that and reverse it, you're looking at over $4 a share. Now, I think it's got a lot higher to go than that. I think this is a tremendously undervalued situation. And what I can see happening is that there's a few catalysts that could drive this stock a lot higher. One of those catalysts is that, of course, they've been having a remarkable series of news releases throughout this year. The only reason it's not performed better is due to the sentiment towards gold stocks. I'm going to talk about why I think that is headed towards a more bullish situation. So news flow, they've had unbelievable news flow. You just need to go and look at their website, go to their news section, look at their headlines alone. You don't even have to look at the actual news releases. Just look at the series of headlines they've had over this year. And it's there's not many companies out there that are coming up with those kind of results. I think that they're sitting at Ruby Hills on one of the most, if not the most important new discoveries in Nevada in many years. And if that's the case, which I think it will be, this stock is going to be worth a lot more in the near term and in the long term. In addition to their Ruby Hills situation, they've also got a world-class gold exploration project at their Granite Creek project. That keeps on kicking out high grade and a big zone. And they're sitting right beside a monster of a deposit, 25 million ounces. It's in the same kind of rock, same fault goes through from that big mine all the way through theirs. And it's wide open at depth, and to continue expanding it in the direction of the 25 million ounce gold deposit. So, I've never in my career seen a company making a discovery of two world-class projects simultaneously. And what makes it even more impressive is that these are permitted mines, and they've got the infrastructure to put these into production quickly. In fact, they're ramping up production right now on one of those projects, Granite Creek, for the rest of this, later in this year, over the next few weeks. And, we talk in the mining business, it's well known, the Lassonde curve. And usually there's two big spikes in a stock's evolution when it makes a big discovery. One is on the discovery, Second is on the production, going into production. Now, usually that takes about 7 to 10 years in between those two spikes. It's called the development discount window. And they're able to narrow that development discount window into weeks and months, not years. And that's truly remarkable to see a company doing that. I think this is a cornerstone holding. Another catalyst that I can see along with their news flow is that currently the company has 5 million declared shorts on it. And a lot of those shorts came at under, let's say around the 250 range. So they're significantly underwater. There was a group, about 3 million declared shorts prior to that, that are probably at about the 320 level. So combined, they're pretty much all underwater now. I think that there's a short squeeze coming for this stock, and that can happen any day now. It's getting close to its all-time highs. And when it hits the all-time highs, everything will be underwater that's short this stock. I can't believe there's 5 million shorts on such a company that's had the flow of news that these guys have had, but that is sort of indicative of the sentiment that we've had for most of this year towards gold stocks, which brings up my next catalyst for them, which is the price of gold. Later, I'm going to show you some gold, the US dollar chart and the gold chart. Basically, the US dollar has been on a tremendous run in 2022. And meanwhile, gold and other metals priced in other commodities priced in US dollars have been under pressure. But I think those two trends are changing direction. I think the US dollar is headed into a bear market, and the price of gold and other metals and commodities are heading much higher. And so they've got a triumvirate of catalysts to move the company or the stock forward. And I think ultimately that this is going to lead to a very substantial short squeeze that could see panic buying coming in any day now. These guys have no problem delivering awesome news with their drilling. And, when you continuously hit, one of the important things about hitting high grade is continuity of that high grade. I've seen other companies out there, some of them even have today a higher valuation exploration companies that don't have the kind of continuity that i-80 Gold has on two projects. So this is a power chart. It's one of the most powerful charts I'm looking at in the gold space right now. And with it trading so aggressively above its 200-day moving average and looking like it's about to go through a golden cross. So I'm expecting more good news out of the company, more positive movement based on gold getting stronger, and a short squeeze to happen in this stock that will help it get quite a bit stronger. A good place to do your homework on them is, as I said, they're a sponsor of my website. Go to my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, and you can find a bunch of interviews that I've done with Ewan Downey. He's very kind to, with his time, he makes it a priority to come on the shows and talk about the news in depth. That's one of the things that I think I do differently than a lot of commentators on the market, is I get timely conversations going with management shortly after the news is out. I don't wait 2, 3, 4 weeks after. I get them on the horn. Ewan Downey always makes a priority, and we go in depth. We dig deeper into the news releases to give better clarity to investors. And so check out those and go to their website, do your homework on that. Okay, so the next company I'm going to talk about is a company called 9 Mile Metals. 9 Mile Metals is another sponsor of my website. They're relatively new. I started covering these guys when they were trading at about 20 cents. And they're doing a lot better than that. And I think that they're going to continue to do extremely well. I'm going to isolate this chart. So here you've got a company that back in the summertime went through a golden cross. And since then, the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average are all pointing upwards. It's trading a significantly above its 200-day and 50-day moving average. The reason for that is that these guys are finding new VMS deposits in an extremely important VMS mining camp. In New Brunswick, the Bathurst mining camp is one of the top 3 VMS mining jurisdictions in the world. There's about 45 deposits in there, and they're looking like they've got something special on their land packages. What really got the stock fired up was when they made the discovery of a lens over 10 meters thick with extreme high-grade copper and zinc in it. And then they drilled a project 20 kilometers away and found another VMS with nice intersections of almost solid massive sulfides in the core. Those results are pending from what they call their California Lake project. And I think that they're going to deliver the goods in that one. And then they're going to start drilling here any day now on their around the lens that they hit with the high grade thick intersection of a lens with high grade copper and zinc right below surface. When I started doing homework on that lens discovery, I saw a geological rock package that has a hinge immediately east of the lens. I think that that's the potential source of where that lens came from. These are volcanogenic events. They're volcanoes that cause this mineralization, the fluids to make their way near surface. In the case of the lens, it's right at surface. And the next exciting stage is to find the source of where that lens came from, where the rest of where the vent that brought that lens to surface it came from. And I think they've got a likely suspect in that hinge. I would also point out that this company is working with a company called EarthX, and they're a geophysical company. What makes them special is that they're using all leading edge technology, whether it's using drones to fly geophysics or taking historical and newly generated geophysical data and putting it through their artificial intelligence expert system to filter out the noise and then vector into where they should be drilling. The fact that they're 2 for 2 generating targets and then drilling them and finding massive sulfides is quite remarkable in the mining space. It doesn't usually turn out like that when you're drilling geophysical anomalies. And these guys are doing excellent work, really quite remarkable work to filter down the data and vector into where they'll find massive sulfides in the drill core. And in addition to these 2 targets, they have a series of other targets that look like they stand out like a sore thumb as well. So, it's known that VMS deposits are found in clusters. And I think that they're going to find more than these 2 massive sulfide occurrences. And you take a look at the valuation, and they're only at about a $19 million valuation. And they've already delivered high grade with their lens. And now they're targeting the source of where that lens came from. I think they have a very strong combination of the right rock package, and the geophysics follow that in that hinge. That's a perfect conduit for the source of where that lens came from. And I'm quite excited about the news that coming up, that they'll start drilling on this on that hinge. And also, I'm quite confident that they're going to be able to come out with good news from their California Lake drilling that they recently completed, which is about 20 kilometers from the lens. The lens is about 10 kilometers from the most important mine in that Bathurst mining camp, which is Brunswick number 12. And that's I think that, and people might call me nuts when you're looking at such a prolific mining camp, but I think that lens and its source could be the jewel in the crown of the entire camp. Now, that's a big statement to say, but why I say that is the lens is orders of magnitude higher grade than all the mines in the area. And so if the lens is that mineralized, the chances are where it came from have something similar, thick intersections of extreme high grade. And if they can add tonnage to those grades, which I think that they can, and it might be a lot sooner than many are expecting, this could be the jewel in the crown of the entire Bathurst mining camp. And I know that's a big statement to make, but let's see what the truth machine has ahead of it. I like what the drilling has already found. I like what the geological structures are pointing towards a source of that lens. I like what the geophysics are suggesting. And I like that the company interpreting those geophysics have had a pretty high success rate generating targets for 9 Mile. 9 Mile trades on the Canadian market, Canadian Stock Exchange, under the symbol NINE. I've done interviews with their management. You can find that on my YouTube channel. You can also do your homework on their website. Check it out. I think that this one is a potential 10-bagger in the making. So let's move on to the next company. The next company I have is a company called Paycore. Paycore is interesting I think the part of the reason why they've broken out so significantly is earlier I talked about I-80 Gold. And I-80 Gold, they've got the property where they're finding that big CRD with the high-grade base and precious metals in it, is right beside Paycore's ground. And as you can see, much like the I-80 stock, it's moved up aggressively. So it's kind of moving in tandem. And just before I-80 came out with their results, Paycore had results out. I did an interview with recently with Christina McCarthy, and they also have a CRD with high-grade gold in it as well. I think that this system between I-80 Gold and Paycore are associated with each other. Here's the geological reasoning for that. There's a fault that goes through Paycore's ground and through the Archimedes pit. And that seems to be the main conduit where this gold and the CRD, the high-grade gold and overprinting the CRD is coming from. That's sort of your crack in the earth that allows those fluids to make their way to surface. The reason that, another reason that I think that they're associated is you just look at the high-grade gold in overprinting the high-grade CRD. That's quite unique. CRDs are not supposed to have high-grade gold in them as well. Both of these companies have high-grade CRDs with high-grade gold in them. And so that's why I think that fault and the secondary faulting around it is so likely a source of both of these deposits. Now, in geological terms, if you go from the Archimedes pit down to the Ruby Hill pit, and that's about 3 kilometers. And so in geological terms, they're very close together. Potentially they could have the same plumbing system. And if that's the case, it speaks volumes for the potential of I-80 gold and volumes for the potential of Paycore. And that's why recently they've sort of been locked at the hip as far as powerful moves. As you can see, the 50-day moving average is $1.17, and they closed on Friday at $1.41. So they're trading quite significantly above the 50-day moving average. Now, you'll notice that there's not that the 200-day moving average is undefined, and the reason for that is this company has only been trading for less than a year. So that's why. But if there was a 200-day moving average, I think you would be seeing it go towards a golden cross. I think you're going to see that 50-day moving average continue to go up as the stock continues to go up. They've got pending results out that the assay results that could have come out any day now. So they're able to sort of ride the coattails of I-80 gold, and I think they're going to continue to be able to do that. And I look forward to their next news release. I think that could add a lot of excitement to this stock. Really, you've got I-80 gold and Paycore getting the imagination of the investing community out there. Paycore is not nearly as well known as I-80, and really I-80 is not as well known as some of the junior exploration companies out there because they're a result of Premier Gold was bought out, and they spun out some of their gold assets in Nevada to the shareholders, and now I-80 has been adding to their assets and having tremendous success with their drilling at Granite Creek and at the Ruby Deeps area, or the Ruby Hill project, and Paycore's right beside him, same kind of rock, same geological structure, and most importantly, the same mineralization, a CRD with a high-grade gold overprint, is just pointing towards both of these companies catching a lot of investor imagination, and I think you're going to see some more great performance out of Paycore, and stay tuned for their next news release on assay results from drilling. They are a sponsor of my website as well. I've done interviews with Christina McCarthy and Jim Gowans. Now, Jim Gowans is an important part of this whole regional story because Jim Gowans was the CEO and president of Arizona Mining. Arizona Mining found a CRD in Arizona and were subsequently bought out for $1.5 billion. He understands these CRD systems, and the fact that he's right in this camp as well is quite exciting. We had a dual. I interviewed both Christina and Jim in one of our previous interviews, and if you really want to get a knowledgeable understanding of the potential of this whole district, Jim Gowans is a great resource. He's been through how these CRDs are formed and how to explore them. and ultimately what the prize is. And so lots of good stuff going on in this Eureka camp. Later on, I'm going to talk about a couple more companies that are in close proximity to i-80 Gold and Paycore. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so let's move on to the next company. This is another, these three companies I've talked about so far are what I call power charts. The next company is a company that none of my viewers will have heard of from me, because this is the first time that I've talked about this company. I started paying attention to this company recently, and I am working on getting interviews with this company. But when I was preparing for this show, I looked at their stock chart, and it's another one I call a power chart. Look at that 50-day moving average, do the golden cross. It's aggressively trading above its 50-day moving average and its 200-day moving average. What's fueled that is they have an exploration project right beside a company called Vizsla. My viewers will know Vizsla because I started covering it at about 50 cents. It trades at about $1.50 now. They've had tremendous success on their Panuca project. They find a lot of extremely high-grade silver in that system, and I think ultimately they've got a mine there. And these guys have a bunch of ground right beside it, and now looking like they're making important vein discoveries as well in the same kind of rock, the same kind of veins. And I think that this company that doesn't have very much stock out, 25 million shares out or something like that, that's tightly held, can deliver some exceptional performance. It's already had exceptional performance in the last few months, but I think that's just getting started, because if they deliver the kind of grades that Vizsla has, and it's in the same kind of rock, the same kind of veins, in the same vicinity, and if they get anywhere near Vizsla has been delivering over 1 kilogram per ton grades from their drilling. This is just extreme. What I think is going to make a mine that's got a very low costs and extremely high margins. And I think these guys got the potential to start delivering some exciting stuff with their drilling as well. And then in addition to that project that they have near Vizsla, they've got another project in Mexico that looks like it could be an orogenic gold system. I love orogenic gold systems, and the reason for that is you look at the Swan Zone at the Fosterville mine in Australia. It was a company-making asset for Kirkland Lake that ultimately saw their stock being one of the best performing gold stocks in the space, and led them to be a low-cost producer of a high-margin gold that ultimately got them bought out. And if orogenic gold systems can be a company maker for what was already a pretty big company, I follow some gold stocks that are finding orogenic gold system. In fact, I'm going to talk about a couple of them later, and they've got that potential as well. So I really like the quality of their assets, where they're located, what they're finding with their drilling. They've had pending assay results, and I think they're going to deliver something. I'm not the only one. The stock's telling you that they're going to deliver with their drill results. So stay tuned for those results. Stay tuned for my efforts to get them on as a regular guest. I have approached them about doing some introductory interviews and also bringing them on as a sponsor. I hope they take me up on that, because I think that this company is going to have excellent news flow, have lots to talk about in interviews. And because I do my interviews when news goes out, which makes me different than a lot of commentators on the market. My experience in exploration gives me the talent, the skills to ask the right questions and dig deep into the news releases, which I think is a unique combination. So, oh, excuse me. PRIZ is their stock symbol. They trade on the Canadian Stock Exchange. Take a look at their news releases. I think you'll see why they broke out in October, and stay tuned for their upcoming news releases on their assay results, because I think that's the reason for this golden cross, and I think it's the catalyst that will take them higher. Plus, I think gold is going to perform much stronger, which will also help silver. And gold and silver are two of my favorite metals. So, as well as copper and some of the other base metals. So, I like gold. I like poor man's gold, silver, and I like green gold. And these guys are in a great camp to look for silver near Vizsla silver, and also orogenic gold in Mexico. So they got a good combination there. All righty, let's move on to the next company. The next company is another power chart. Let me just isolate this chart for you. Let's see here. Let me get this up and running. And I will do a screen capture here. The company is called Zacatecas Silver. I live in Zacatecas, Mexico. I'm not very far from their projects. And when I was doing my homework to prepare for this show, what I'd like to highlight is that the stock is quite significantly above its 50-day moving average. It's been powered on above the average volume, which suggests to me that the market is expecting a lot of good news out of this company. It's now approaching its 200-day moving average. The 50-day moving average is pointing upwards, which is suggestive that they are headed towards a golden cross. I like this combination a lot. I like their projects a lot. They're, as I said, not very far from me. Where I live, they're probably about a 10 or 15-minute drive. I've reached out to this company on several occasions to try to get them on the show, but I haven't had any luck. I'd also like to invite, see if I could sneak my way onto their property to look at what they're doing. So I will keep on them, because this area that they're in, Zacatecas, Mexico, is sort of the silver camp of silver, the leading silver district in the world for silver. 10% of the silver that's ever been produced worldwide has come from the state of Zacatecas. These guys are really close to the city of Zacatecas. This city was built on mining. In fact, they're not far from the mine, just out behind the big shopping mall here in the city, and right beside the big shopping mall they have a head frame, and everywhere you go, like the community that I live in, all the streets are named after all the mines. This area has been mining since the 1500s, and continuously mining, and they're high-grade gold, silver mines with high margins. And that makes for very profitable mining. One of the lowest cost producers of silver is the company called Fresnillo PLC. Fresnillo's district is over in the city of Fresnillo, which is about 35 miles from where I live. And right beside the city of Fresnillo is where Mag Silver has made their important discovery and now brought it into production. And it's kicking off a lot of free cash flow. Those two companies, Fresnel PLC and Mag Silver, are the lowest cost producers of silver. And that's what you get out of this Zacatecas state. High grade, low cost, high margins, cash machines. And Zacatecas Silver is on to something quite important. And stay tuned for more news out of that company. And I'll keep bugging them to try to get them on an interview and maybe even get a property visit together. But I sure like what their stock chart has been doing lately. Really moving up nicely. Looks like it's headed towards a golden cross and much higher. So there you go. That's the story on the Zacatecas Silver, ZAC, on the Venture Exchange. And do your homework on that one because I think they've got lots on the go. Okay. Now, the final company in my power charts is a zinc company. And let me just isolate that chart for you. The company is called Fireweed Metals. And as you can see here, they bottomed over the last few months. They started a breakout. It's now trading aggressively above its 200-day and its 50-day. And as you can see here, the 50-day and the 200-day are both moving up together. So I think we're within days of this one having a golden cross. Maybe I should call it a zinc cross. The technical term is golden cross. But I think that's what's coming for this company. When they trade that aggressively above the 50-day or the 200-day and the 50-day, and both of those moving averages are turning upwards, is a sign that they are going to deliver some big news. And I think they should. They just recently wrapped up their drilling season up in the Yukon. They've got a couple of really great projects. I have spoken with management on past shows, Brandon McDonald. You can find that on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to try and get him on a show again soon because I think they're going to have excellent news flow from their drilling results. And I think that could carry right through into the new year, a trend of important results. And then they're doing some technical or some work to upgrade their resources and possibly moving towards a preliminary economic assessment. But these guys got high grade. It looks like it could be a future mine. They may have another project with a future mine on it as well. And I'll work towards getting Brandon McDonald on an interview because something's going on with this stock chart that suggests it's heading a lot higher. And sometimes the stock chart is a predictor of the future. And if this one is a predictor of the future, it's going to head a lot higher. And then when I see that kind of action, I say, okay, well, what's going on with the news? Because that's ultimately what's going to drive the stock higher. And as I said, they've completed drilling on their Yukon project, and they got a lot of assays pending. So I think that's the fuel that will move the Fireweed Metals higher. And so that's the final of what I'm calling the power charts. So the next group of companies are, I call them ready for launch stock charts. The first one is a company called Sokoman Minerals. Sokoman is a sponsor of my website, and you can find interviews that I've done with Tim Froud on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. What's really got me excited about the company recently is they announced some very high grade over thick intersection gold at their Moosehead Gold project. Moosehead is an orogenic gold system. These are Fosterville, I mentioned earlier. Swan Zone was a company maker for Kirkland Lake that got them bought out and saw their stock perform extremely well prior to that. If an orogenic success story can move a stock like Kirkland Lake, it can certainly move a little company like Sokoman Minerals. What they hit is on their eastern zone, the deepest drilling hit the thickest intersections of high grade. I think that this is the first discovery of a jewelry box hit like what the Swan Zone could be described as. They've done some additional work to prepare for drilling to around that area. One of the work they did is they put a camera down the hole, and they had a structural geologist recently analyze that, and that will give them a picture of what the rock looks like down hole, and that can help them understand the direction of the veins. And are these zones more than one that are coming together, or are they one big one? Who knows? But it'll take more drilling to understand that, but they want to understand where to drill. And that work that they've recently done, although it's not the stuff that will get a lot of market participants super excited, it does get me super excited because I want them to understand this jewelry box hits that they've made. Because I think that this could be something like a Swan Zone. And you want to make sure that you're drilling in the right direction when you do that drilling, which is probably coming up within a very short period of time, maybe in the next couple of weeks. They should be getting ready to drill around that big hit that they had. And recently, they also announced that they're finding cesium, which is a very highly valuable mineral that nobody talks about, but has been performing very well. And it's found on their lithium project, where they've drilled into what could be a hard rock deposit, what is a hard rock deposit of lithium that I think has the potential to grow quite a lot more. They've got all the right geological indicators, and I think what you're going to see happen is that they'll spin out the lithium, the cesium, into a new company that the shareholders will get shares in. And then Moosehead will continue to be, or Sokoman will continue to be focused on the Moosehead, because I think that Moosehead project is at a seminal moment. It's now hit what looks like a jewelry box that could be something like a Swan Zone at the Fosterville mine. They're gearing up to drill more around that area, and then they've got other orogenic gold occurrences in their historical drilling as well. So Sokoman has a lot on the go, and that's why it started to trade above its 50-day moving average. As you can see, the 50-day moving average is turning up, and it looks like it can trend towards a golden cross in the near term as well. And that's why I call this one a ready for launch stock. And they've got plenty of catalysts ahead of them and that can move that stock much higher. So I can see a golden cross in their future. I can see more news from their jewelry box hit that they made at the Moosehead project. I could see more good results coming from their lithium and cesium situation. And I'm very glad to have them as a sponsor. because they're another company that makes a priority to dig deeper into the news releases right after they're made and give investors a better understanding of the news. And I really like Tim Froud a lot. Really smart geologist, really good man. If anyone's going to have success in this business, I hope it's someone like Tim. And I think that the company is doing that and about to become a much more well-known name amongst the investing community in junior exploration stocks. And do your homework on them as well. Check out my YouTube channel, Rocks and Stocks News. Check out the interviews that I've done with Tim. Go to their website, look at all their news releases as well. And I think you'll understand why I'm so optimistic about Sokoman. All righty, so let's move on to another ready for launch stock, which is Amex Exploration. Amex used to be a sponsor of my website, and I was fortunate enough to do a bunch of interviews with them in the past. So you can go to my YouTube channel to check those out. I'm working towards getting Kelly Malcolm on a show again soon. So here's another stock that has seen a breakout above the 50-day moving average. It's corrected down to the 50-day moving average, but they have been drilling up a storm on their project Huron in Quebec. I think this is very oversold stock and underappreciated for what they've found. They have a high-grade zone that extends from surface all the way down to over 1,000 meters below surface. It's an orogenic gold system. In these high-grade gold systems, what you want to see is continuity of the high grade. They have that in spades. In addition to their that high-grade zone, right beside the high-grade zone, literally, is a open pit target called Denise. And what it looks like will happen with this in the future is that they'll mine the near surface stuff, and then that gives them easy access to going underground into the high grade zone. In addition to that, they've found other high grade gold zones in close proximity to the Denise zone, the high grade zone. And then they have these satellite zones as well, and they're all tightly packed in close proximity. And which begs the question, well, is there a possibility that this all comes together at surface or at depth? And I think there is. And the reason that I say that is they've got one structure on the southern end, and at the contact between two rock packages, and right at that structure is where they found Denise and the high grade zone. Then on top to the north of that, they've got another structure. And you see how I have my hands, they're moving towards each other. It's right where that wedge is that they've got all these other zones. And if you keep following that, you're going to come to where these two faults meet, which is the perfect conduit for where all of this mineralization, that the plumbing system for all of the fluids to have come from. If that's the case, well, first of all, I think they've got tremendous assets in the Denise zone, the high grade zone, and these other zones. But if they can link it all together at depth, I mean, this could be one of the most important discoveries in Canada. And I think that's what they have their hands on. And they're meticulously following it with aggressive drill program. They've got lots of money in the bank, 20 or 30 million dollars in the bank, so they can drill till the cows come home. They have been drilling. They've got lots of pending results. I think that their news flow is going to be exceptional. And I think that what you're going to see happen is another stock that I think is going to go into a golden cross, which is, I think, in the near term, over the next month or so. And I think it's going to be moved because of great results. And they've got, as I said, lots of drilling done. I'm working on getting Kelly Malcolm on for another interview to give us an update. It's been a while since he's had a chance to talk to my audience. And I want to get him on again because I think very highly of this project. I started following it when it was like a 50-cent stock a few years ago, and we did a bunch of interviews. It's traded a lot higher than it is right now. It's kind of on a 50% off sale. And with the catalyst that they have ahead of them and the potential for gold to move forward, the fact that they're in Quebec, which is a great mining jurisdiction, they're right beside a town, so they've got easy infrastructure, or they got great infrastructure. It's a mining town that was built on mining. They can order pizza from Boston Pizza and have it delivered to the project. So that's how good their infrastructure is. So Amex has a lot going for it. I think their current valuation is very cheap relative to what they have already found and the potential to find more high-grade gold. And I just think they've got a great situation, and I look forward to talking to Kelly Malcolm again soon. So there's another of my ready for launch stock charts. Next one up is Timberline. Now, Timberline is associated with two companies that I covered earlier, which is i-80 Gold and Paycore. They're in the Eureka district as well. And what makes them very interesting, they're trading right about at their 50-day moving average, but I think in the near term, you're going to see that 50-day moving average turn upwards and them trade through their 200-day moving average for a golden cross. They're starting, you can see that they've recently had some increased volume, and what that is related to is a couple things. One is the success that i-80 Gold and Paycore are having just to the north of them. And also they had some results out. What I found interesting about the results was that in addition to expanding their resource, they also found what looks like is a CRD discovery. I think that these CRDs are always structurally controlled, so I can see that they're kind of on the edge of what looks like a CRD discovery in close proximity to a structural story. And I hope that they start drilling there more, because I think this whole camp from i-80 Gold, Paycore, all the way down to Timberline it has historically been known as a CRD camp. They started mining CRD deposits in the 1860s. There was CRD mining there for 100 years. There's plenty of evidence of CRD mines around this area. There's a key fault that goes from i-80 Gold, Paycore, and through Timberline's ground as well. And so they're in the same kind of rock packages. They're in the same kind of structural system, fault. So they've got all the earmarkings of the ability to make CRD discoveries, and now they're getting sniffs of the CRD in their drilling. I think this whole camp is about to explode, and Timberline has a big chunk of ground in the camp. They're in immediately to the west of the town of Eureka. So great infrastructure there. City built on mining. And these guys have been doing a bunch of drilling recently, and they have a lot of drill holes pending. And because of the quality of the ground, the quality of the targets, I think that they can deliver some very good results with their drilling. And I'm a big fan of this Eureka camp. And I think that Timberline is on to some serious stuff in this camp. They got a big land package. They got lots of great targets. I've talked to their Patrick, their CEO, in the past. We've done interviews. You can find them on my website or on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. Other people are high on this company, and I think they should be because of the quality of the team, the quality of where they are, what they've been finding with the drilling. I think that they're ready for a significant breakout in their stock. The stock symbol is TBR on the venture exchange. Timberline, I think they're on, I think they could deliver some big stuff in the near term. And so stay tuned. We're going to be doing some more interviews. We recently did an interview talking about their recent results. And again, they're in a great camp. Do your homework on them. I think that this is a ready for launch stock chart that I wanted to talk about today. All right. So let's move on to my next one, which is a kind of a combination of a copper and a gold story. It's called McEwen Mining. Named after Rob McEwen, who made his fame in the business because of the discovery of the, building of Gold Corp, the discovery of extreme high grade in an orogenic gold system in Ontario, Red Lake, Ontario. And as you can see, the stock had been under pressure until it bottomed back a few months ago. And lately, it's been trending upwards. In fact, it's trading above its 50-day moving average quite significantly. And it's trading pretty much right on its 200-day moving average. What's caused that excitement and enthusiasm is mainly because they have a copper project down in South America. It's a very big copper project. It's one of the largest undeveloped copper projects in the world. What they're planning on doing is to spin that out to shareholders. The McEwen Mining owns 68% of the private McEwen copper. And so the only way you can get access to buying into the McEwen copper story is by buying McEwen Mining, because McEwen Copper is private, but it will be a public company. They're shooting for mid-2023. Why it broke out quite significantly in the last month is because a major mining company has some technology that they can bring to that copper project, and it's the kind of thing that could unlock a lot of value. And the major put $20 million into McEwen Copper, so they're now a big shareholder, and they think that their system can help with that copper project, turn it into a very profitable copper project. The majors are screaming for copper projects, and McEwen Mining has one of those. And I think that the stock at its current valuation is undervalued just because of their interest in their copper project. But what's caused the stock to get under pressure was they had a lot of problems with their gold operations. And it's sort of a gold mining company turnaround story on their gold projects. And I think that they're going to accomplish that. They've recently been showing signs that they're turning the corner on making better operations at their current mines. But one of the things that I don't think is really they're getting any credit for is the potential to drill deeper, especially in their Ontario project. It's in the Greenstone Belt. It's one of these orogenic systems. I don't think they're deep enough to get into their jewelry boxes. They've been mining nearer surface, and these jewelry boxes tend to be deeper in that greenstone belt. Like, for example, at the Red Lake mine that Gold Corp had, that made it one of the lowest cost producers of gold in the planet. They had to go below 1,000 meters before they started getting into the 2 ounce per ton gold zones. And when they did, that made Gold Corp one of the lowest cost producers of gold in the business. And it was an extremely popular stock. And I don't think anybody's given them the potential to find one of those below their mining, but where they're mining in Ontario. But I think they could, and I hope they do some deeper drilling below where they're mining. And I think they could have a lot of excitement. I mean, if Rob McEwen was able to show that maybe he's got another Gold Corp system below what he's mining right now, that would get their gold side of things. People would be, very excited about that, plus this copper situation. So the stock has definitely turned the corner. And I think what's fueling it so far is solely the copper asset, the McEwen copper story. But I think that their gold story could get a lot hotter as well. And if they get both things moving in the right direction, that's what could drive this stock through a golden cross and much higher. So, I mean, let's face it, McEwen Mining is right now trading at a lower valuation than some gold exploration stocks out there. So considering what they have, I think that they're very undervalued. I have had the pleasure of interviewing Rob McEwen on some of my past shows. You can find that on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. You can get an understanding. We talked a lot in our last interview in the last couple of months about their copper situation and their gold story. And I invite you to go check out that interview because, again, this is one that I think is ready for launch and headed higher. Okay, Galantas. Here's another company that used to be a sponsor on my website. I have done a bunch of interviews with Mario Stefano. I invite you to go check those out, because it gives you a good understanding of their orogenic gold system in Ireland. Recently, the stock's been sort of sideways to trending up slightly, but you can see a convergence of their 50-day and their 200-day. This is a inflection point, and I think that there's a strong argument to be made that the next move is towards moving both the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average much higher. The catalysts are that they've started mining on this near surface stuff. It looks like they can make nice margins and free cash flow from mining that near surface stuff. It's very high grade. And they can use that to fund their deeper drilling into the orogenic gold system. As I said, these orogenic gold systems, they go down they're big cracks in the earth that go down very deep, over 4,000 meters in some cases. And in that, as you get into the deeper parts of those systems, maybe, 500 meters and more, is where you find swan zones like they did at Fosterville. In the case of the Red Lake mine, they had to go down over 1,000 meters. But what they've already hit, what I consider jewelry box hits, they're called dilation zones, and that's where the rocks in these faults opens up a little bit, and the fluids can then get through there. They've hit thick intersections for an orogenic gold system with a very high grade gold. And now the trick is to keep following that deeper. and the near surface mining that will create free cash flow will be able to fund that. But what makes it equally as interesting is that underground workings allows their geologists to go in and look at what the rock looks like as they go deeper. And that gives them a predictability of where to go for more of these dilation zones. And they've been doing a bunch of drilling. They have a bunch of drilling results pending. They go look at their news releases. You'll see a bunch of high grade and in nice intersections in the highlights of their news, or in the headlines of their news releases. I think that this is a really undiscovered gem that's going to head a lot higher. As you can see, this stock chart has been creating a base, a long base. There's an old saying in technical analysis that the longer the base, the higher it goes into space. I think they're at an inflection point with a lot of catalysts that will unlock this stock to go much higher. I'm a big fan of Galantas Gold's project. Another thing that I find very interesting is they've got two main veins, zones, and one zone in between it, and they're in very close proximity. Again, this sounds to me like these three zones can connect at depth. And if they do, that's the kind of thing that makes for a swan zone discovery. Each of the veins can have their own swan zones in it. And if they coalesce at depth, that's sort of what happened at Red Lake, where they got deeper and the veins got tighter and higher grade. And that's what I think could be in store for this company. So Galantas Gold is another one you want to do your homework on. Go to my YouTube channel, Rocks and Stocks News. I did a bunch of interviews with Mario Stefano, and that's a great place to start your homework. Go to their website, check out their news releases, and I think you'll understand why I am so bullish on Galantas. Okay, now I'm going to move to a company called Orla. Orla Mining is a company that I started following when they were around $1 a share. They currently trade at $4.77, or they close at $4.57. And why I got so bullish on this company is that they had a project also in the state of Zacatecas, I might add, not very far from where I live. They were building a mine there. They've now got it in production. And it's a very high margin operation. And I think that you're going to see that this stock that's been kind of going sideways. Again, it's similar to Galantas in that it seems to be at an inflection point with their 50-day and their 200-day moving sideways. But there's been a rising bottom since July, and it keeps making higher lows. And I think that they could break out and have a golden cross any day now. The Pierre Lassonde of the Lassonde curve fame, he put his own money where he put a bunch of money in when this stock was about $1 a share as well, when they were about a year away from starting production. They've now started that production. It will make them a top 10 lowest cost producers of gold in the mining business. And I think that's the kind of thing that will get a premium. I think a couple of catalysts are that, they get a quarter or two into the high margin production, and people will start to stand up and take notice of how low a cost producer they are. Secondly, I think that as gold goes forward, this one will continue to trend upwards. I think a breakout is imminent. I like Orla a lot. If you're into gold mining stocks, gold miners, this is a good one to have a holding of. And I think they've got a lot of good news ahead of them. The kind of free cash flow that can lead to them buying other assets, which they recently did up in Nevada. I think it can lead them towards stock buybacks, dividends, lots of good stuff when you got that kind of free cash flow from a high margin project, which is what they have in the state of Zacatecas, Mexico. I like to follow it closely because I live in the state of Zacatecas, Mexico, and it's such a prolific mining jurisdiction, and these guys have a prolific mine that generates a lot of free cash flow. Okay, the final company I'm going to talk about is a company that I was part of the news release that they recently put out, because I became an advisor to this company for digital marketing and corporate development. Why I did that is these guys are, earlier I talked about 3 companies that are in the Eureka mining district. One of them is i-80 Gold. They're the elephant. They're the leader of this whole camp. With what they've got at their gold zone, to the west of their Archimedes pit, to the south zone, which is their CRD system. And then you've got right below them, you've got Paycore, who also has a CRD with a high-grade gold overprint in it. To the south of Paycore is Golden Lake Exploration. This company has below a $5 million valuation. And I think that this is the undiscovered gem in of these 3, because it's such a small company. I mean, if they get any kind of joy, which they've already had some joy in their drilling, but what really attracts me is that same fault that goes through i-80, Paycore, Golden Lake, and Timberline, that on that trend, what got me excited about the whole trend is that there's been a lot of mining, including on Golden Lake Explorations project. They got something like 15 mine showings of historical mining that was done on their property. Those old-time miners, they weren't messing around. They were looking for CRDs because that's what was being mined from the 1860s through to for 100 years. And a good place to look for a new mine is where there's an old mine. And you'll notice that they've recently been getting more volume, and I think that's because of how close they are to i-80 Gold and Paycore. You've got i-80 Gold, Paycore, and then Golden Lake. And what I don't think people have really dug into, I think right now it's sort of trading because Paycore and Gold and i-80 are doing well. But I think that they've got the realistic potential of finding a CRD and Carlin gold systems on their properties. They've already got some sniffs of it in a couple of holes that they've had that looks like the Carlin stuff, but I really think that these guys could be the next big CRD discovery story in that Eureka camp behind i-80 Gold, Paycore, and then Golden Lake. Now, the reason I say that is because of the fault, because the geological story, because of the historical mining on their property. But they're really, with their cheap valuation, nobody's giving them success, the potential for success, like that has happened at Paycore to their immediate north and to Paycore's immediate north at i-80. Which is why I approached them to see if I could become a more significant part of their team. They are already a sponsor of my shows, and I appreciate that because it gives me a chance to create a lot of content around the Eureka camp. But I wanted to get more involved because I want to help them get the word out even more significantly about their potential. In addition to having the right kind of fault, which again is a crack in the earth that allows the fluids to bring up, in the case of the Eureka camp to their immediate north, a CRD systems and overprint of high-grade gold for both Paycore and I-80. And so this is a remarkably exciting area to look for CRDs. And when you're looking for new mines, a good place to look for new mines is where there's old mines. And these old mining operations for CRDs on Golden Lake's property gives them a heck of a potential to find a CRD similar to what Paycore and I-80 are finding. Now, they've also recently added Don Hoy to their team. Don's a geologist that I've known for very many years, and Don is an extremely talented geologist. He is a very smart geologist. He's compiling all the data from the historical mining, geological structures, geophysical work, drilling. He's combining that all into a big data set, and he's going to help them unlock the puzzle. And I like the chances to unlock that puzzle and come up with important discoveries of CRDs and Carlin deposits, and maybe something like what I-80 and Paycore have found to their immediate north. And to me, that's a very exciting and undiscovered gem. And that's why I threw my hat in the ring to become part of their team as an advisor. I'm very happy that they took me up on that offer. I think this company's got a great future. Getting back to the stock chart, you can see that the 50-day moving average has bottomed. And I think the next action is to see that 50-day moving average start bending upwards and moving towards the 200-day and a golden cross. What will fuel that is a combination of what's going on in the area immediately north of them with Paycore and I-80 Gold. Plus the work that Don Hoy is doing to unlock the potential of this project. And I'm looking forward to drilling to look for a CRD. I think that this company has great potential to find one. If it looks anything like what Paycore and I-80 Gold have found, which I think it has the realistic potential of doing, the valuation will be much higher. And there you go. There's another company I call ready for launch stock charts. Okay, I'm going to go off my screen share now. And actually, before I do that, let me get back on the screen share there, because I wanted to bring up some charts. The US dollar chart, this is going back about a year now. As you can see, it's been on a parabolic move for most of 2022. Right in here, from these lows, it just went pretty much parabolic for a currency. And that was fueled by the Federal Reserve raising interest rates aggressively this year. I think that the chart since then is showing that the weakness that was caused by it getting so overbought, but I think it's also telling us that the US dollar bulls are getting a little bit scared that the Federal Reserve is going to stop the party on raising interest rates. I think first you'll see them slow down, maybe go to a half a point, then quarter points, then no points. Then after that, the next will be the next round of quantitative easing. The reason that I say that is because the Federal Reserve always overshoots. I think they're overshooting on the raising of interest rates, which will cause a significant economic slowdown, the real estate market to come under a lot of pressure, and then they'll have to stimulate again. So I think that's what this recent US dollar action has been showing us since September. Recently, it's made a violent drop from here down to here. It's having troubles since then trying to, on days when it tries to recover, it doesn't have very much success. And I think we're going to see in very short order another big down leg in this trend. And I would expect that in 2023 we're going to see it get back down to this 94 level, which is a very serious drop for a US dollar index. Now, concurrently, while that correction has been happening in the US dollar, let's take a look at gold. It's been doing the opposite. It's had a triple bottom and a breakout, a very substantial breakout here. And that's when the US dollar got pummeled recently. And I think this is also some enthusiasm that's coming towards gold. And you can see the same thing happening in the price of silver. There you go, triple bottom, big breakout. Copper, bottoming, breakout. And so I think this is a trend that you're going to see with the US dollar coming under pressure, and gold, silver, copper, other commodities. Well, let's just bring up some other commodities for that matter that are priced in the US dollar. Let's go to something like cocoa. Cocoa, bottom, spiked up when the US dollar went under pressure. Let's see what cotton's done. Not so much. Sugar, same kind of action. Bottom, big pop when the US dollar went under pressure. So I think that people are starting to realize soybeans, bottom, big move up as the US dollar has been under pressure. I think people are starting to realize that, you're probably better off holding commodities, gold, silver, copper, other commodities, things that people need in our modern world, better than the US dollar, which they're priced in. And I think you're going to see a very bullish trend for gold, silver, copper, and other commodities as the US dollar is under pressure. So that is a big catalyst for all of these stocks that I talked about earlier. And I think that the trend is getting more bullish for gold and silver, and more bearish for the US dollar. And I think that's more of the same for the rest of this year and for 2023 as well. So I'm expecting big things out of the trend in gold, silver, copper, and other commodities, and that fuel these stock charts that I talked about earlier, and other ones that I'm keeping an eye on. And I got some new companies that I'm going to be bringing to you soon. As the market is turning upwards, I've brought a lot of good ones to you already. You can check those out in my YouTube channel. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. And most important is do your homework. I think it's important for investors to understand the companies that they're investing in. That way you don't make emotional trades because of sentiment that's set by other people. Do your homework. You can do that on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, where I interview these company executives right after news has been made, and we could dig deeper into that news. And then go to their websites, look at their news releases, look at their corporate presentations. You're going to understand why sentiment is very negative for a lot of gold stocks, we've been able to bring you a bunch of them that are bucking that trend and look like they're headed a lot higher. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.